My name is Nazar, and I'm 30 years old. My work revolves around horror and the supernatural. I'm a writer of stories and novels in this genre. But today I'm going to tell you a story unlike anything I've ever written before. Because this one happened to me. Near my house, where I lived with my wife and daughter, there was a secluded residential neighborhood. One fateful night, something beyond belief occurred. The power went out in the entire neighborhood and remained off until dawn. But when the sun rose, a horrifying discovery was made. Every resident in the neighborhood lay dead in the streets. Some were decapitated, others had their intestines spilling out. Blood was smeared across the walls. It was a gruesome massacre. A passerby on his way to work at 6 a.m. was the first to witness the scene. The police arrived quickly and launched an investigation, questioning everyone from nearby districts. But strangely, the people from that neighborhood had always lived in complete isolation. No one really knew anything about them. With no leads, the authorities took drastic measures. They surrounded the entire neighborhood with a high fence and stationed guards around it. But the true nightmare was yet to come. The next morning, the police officers assigned to guard the area were found, torn apart. Their bodies were scattered across the ground, ripped to shreds. And on one of the blood-stained walls, a chilling message was written. "Stay away from us, and we will stay away from you." My curiosity, my downfall. When I heard about this neighborhood, my insatiable curiosity, something I always knew would be my downfall, took over. I started asking around, but no one gave me clear answers. People seemed to know something, but were too terrified to talk. The only response I kept hearing was, "They deserved what happened. They brought this upon themselves." That cryptic answer only fueled my desire to uncover the truth. At dawn, armed with a flashlight, I climbed over the fence and stepped into the forbidden neighborhood. The air was thick with the stench of decay. Bloodstains still marked the ground and walls. Silence pressed in from all sides. As I moved cautiously through the abandoned streets, I saw a man standing in the middle of the road. At first I thought my mind was playing tricks on me, but as he stepped closer, I could see him clearly. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't running. He was waiting. When our eyes met, he asked in a firm voice, "What are you doing here? Who let you in? Why did you come?" I smirked. "You're here too, aren't you? So tell me, what's really going on in this place?" And then he said something that sent a chill down my spine. "I'm the only one allowed to be here. Once you enter, you never leave. You become part of it." The horror begins. The man introduced himself. His name was David. He was a thief. He used to break into abandoned houses in this neighborhood, hoping to steal whatever valuables remained. But one night, while searching a house, he heard a knock at the door. When he opened it, he saw a corpse standing there. Frozen with terror, he slammed the door shut and ran back to his room. But when he turned around, the same corpse was now sitting on his bed, smiling at him. With a hollow, whispering voice, it said, "Do not be afraid. We only have a message for you. You are welcome here. Take whatever you wish, but keep our secret." I asked, "If this was supposed to be a secret, why are you telling me all this?" He sighed. "Because I've had enough. Living with the dead, it changes you. It drains you. It makes you something else." Then, almost to himself, he muttered, "Night is coming. You'll understand soon." I laughed. "What are you talking about? It's barely dawn." But David only smirked darkly and whispered, "You're the one who's trapped. It's already 7 p.m. I glanced at my watch, my breath caught in my throat. He was right. Somehow, an entire day had vanished. And when I looked back, up David was gone. The watching eyes. I pressed forward, gripping my flashlight tightly, but as I turned a corner, I froze. An entire alley filled with motionless, black cats. They were enormous, too large to be normal, and they all stared at me, unblinking, unmoving. I forced myself to keep walking, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Ahead I saw an open apartment building. The door stood ajar as if inviting me in. As I approached, something nudged me. A black cat. It pushed me toward the entrance. And before I knew it, I was inside. The woman from the picture. The house was filthy, the air thick with rot. As I wandered through the dimly lit rooms, I found a small black box on a dusty table. Inside was an old photograph of family. A father, a mother, and a daughter. Something about it felt wrong. I turned into the bathroom. It was the most disturbing sight yet. Blood splattered everywhere, but the mirror was pristine. I couldn't resist looking into it. And then I stopped breathing. My reflection wasn't moving. I turned my head, but my image in the mirror remained frozen like a photograph. Then its mouth began to stretch, wider and wider, until it covered the entire mirror. And suddenly a swarm of massive black cockroaches poured from the glass, surging toward me. I tried to move. I couldn't. The mirror cracked, then shattered, sending shards flying. I screamed, stumbling backward, into something. Someone. I turned, heart hammering, an old woman with long, tangled hair staring at me with empty eyes. I recognized her instantly. She was the woman from the photograph. Her voice was like nails on glass. "Why are you here? Who told you to come? Why are you so curious?" Before I could answer, she let out a piercing scream. The windows exploded. Blood gushed from her body, flooding the room. And then, shadows. Dark figures emerged, grabbing me, pulling me down into the rising pool of blood. I struggled. I screamed, but I was drowning. Then darkness. Welcome to the other side. When I woke up, I was in a different house. Clean, perfect, silent. Two tall, pale men stood before me. But their faces, they had no eyes, no nose, only wide, stretching mouths. One of them leaned in close and spoke in a slow, inhuman voice. "Welcome, Nizar. We've been expecting you." I felt my body frozen, as if I were trapped in a nightmare with no way to wake up. The two pale men stood before me motionless, their distorted faces evoking a terror beyond words. I tried to step back, but my feet wouldn't move. It was as if the ground beneath me had ceased to exist. One of them repeated in a cold, monotonous voice, "We've been waiting for you, Nizar." I screamed, "What do you want from me? Where am I?" But instead of answering, one of them slowly extended his hand toward me. His fingers weren't human anymore, but twisted, black claws growing before my eyes. The air grew thick, as if I was sinking into an endless void. Suddenly I fell. I fell into an infinite darkness. I could hear whispers, voices of the dead, distorted laughter. Then, without warning, I woke up. I found myself in my bed, in my home, beside my sleeping wife. The room was dark, but everything seemed normal. I took a deep breath, sitting up for a moment, trying to process what had happened. Was it just a nightmare? But when I looked at my hands, the blood in my veins froze. There was something between my fingers, an old photograph, soaked in blood. The same family from that cursed house. And then I heard a voice behind me, a familiar voice. It whispered slowly in my ear, "You are one of us now." Then, the light